In the still heart of Suffolk, England, where the morning fog drifts across the moorlands and the only sound is the soft bleating of sheep, something unspeakable took root. In a red barn nestled on the edge of Polstead, a secret lay buried for months. It would take a ghost, a dream, and a mother's intuition to dig it up. This is the true story of Maria Marten, William Corder, and one of the most infamous murders in British history, the Red Barn Murder. Maria Marten was not the type of girl stories are usually told about. A farmer's daughter, quiet yet spirited, beautiful yet troubled. She had known hardship, heartbreak, and scandal, all by the age of 24. She lived in Polstead with her father, Thomas Marten, a mala catcher by trade. Their home was modest, their lives simple, but Maria longed for more. She had already borne children out of wedlock, uncommon and frowned upon in that time, and she had become intimately involved with a man known both for charm and deception, William Corder. Maria Marten met William Corder the way many love stories begin in villages like Polstead, by accident, and far too young to understand the weight of the consequences. It was spring, 1826. The sun rose early and lingered on the earth longer than usual. The market square was alive with chatter and trade. William, the son of a local farmer, stood out not just for his fine dress, but for the air of something forbidden. Dark curls tucked beneath his hat, eyes that scanned and assessed like a man with secrets to sell. Maria, on the other hand, was already acquainted with pain. At just 24, she had lived the life of a woman twice her age. Years before she met William, she had fallen in love with another man, a promise maker whose name history has mostly forgotten, but whose shadow remained. He was a sailor passing through Polstead on leave. Their affair was passionate and brief. When Maria found herself with child, the man was gone. No forwarding address, no returned letters. Her heart broke in silence. Her son was born out of wedlock, a grave offense in the eyes of the village, and more so in the eyes of Maria's own father. Thomas Marten was a strict man, bound by scripture and shame. The child was taken to a nearby relative to be raised away from scandal. Maria never truly got over that loss, but the town never let her forget. She was branded not by fire, but by whispers. A fallen woman, some said. Others were crueler, warning their sons to keep clear of the Marten girl. But where many turned away, William leaned in. They first spoke during a harvest festival. William offered her an apple and a knowing smile. He told her stories of London, of fortunes lost and nearly gained, of brothers who died and sisters who wept. He had a way with words, always enough truth to be believable, just enough lie to be charming. Over time, their meetings grew more frequent. Walks by the river, shared cider under the elm trees, stolen kisses in the corners of fields. Maria's heart, so wounded before, began to hope again. Perhaps this time would be different. But William was not different. He was a man haunted by gambling debts, accused of petty theft, and rumored to have forged banknotes. Yet to Maria, he seemed a lifeline, a chance to escape Polstead, the shame, and maybe even reunite with her son. Her father disapproved, but her mother, Anne, remained silent. Perhaps she saw in William the same desperate hunger that Maria did. Or perhaps she simply hoped for her daughter's redemption. When Maria told William she was pregnant again, his reaction was not joy, it was calculation. He said they should elope, start a new life in Ipswich. He said they would marry in secret, then return to make it official. All she had to do was meet him at the Red Barn. She agreed because she loved him, because no one else ever told her she could still be loved. Maria Marten stood at the threshold of her future, a small cloth bag in her hand, her pale blue cloak pulled tight against the early morning chill. She was nervous, yes, but hopeful. This was the day William promised they would leave Polstead behind and start anew, free from gossip, judgment, and the long shadows of their past. She was to meet him at the Red Barn. He had written the night before, insisting they elope quietly. He said her family, particularly her stepmother, might try to stop her, that it was better if they departed unseen, slipping away under the morning fog. So, just after sunrise, Maria slipped out of the cottage. She kissed her younger sister goodbye quietly, whispering that she was going to be married at last. She never looked back. But that morning, no one saw Maria again. Days turned to weeks, and weeks turned to 11 months without the family seeing Maria. During that period, William showed up occasionally at Polstead, without Maria, of course, but no one suspected any foul play. When asked the reason, William always had an explanation. William Corder told those who asked that Maria had gone to Ipswich, or London, depending on who asked, that she was happy, that they planned to marry soon. He even claimed she'd written letters back home, but Maria's family never saw her, never heard her voice, never received a letter in her handwriting. William kept up with the lies. William kept telling everyone Maria couldn't write because she was ill, or that he returned to make sure his household was in order. He later claims she did write, but the letter must have gotten lost somewhere in the mail. But during all these, he kept close watch over the Red Barn, watching every movement around the place. Then, nothing. He left Polstead altogether. The Martens grew suspicious, especially Maria's stepmother, Anne Marten. She said she had visions, strange dreams, where Maria's ghost pointed to the Red Barn, pleading to be found. Many dismissed her as hysterical, but others listened. One morning in April 1828, almost a year after Maria vanished, her stepmother begged her husband to dig beneath the barn's loose floorboards. They did, and there, buried in a sack, lay the decaying body of a young woman. Maria Marten had not run away. She had been murdered, shot, then buried in the same barn where she once waited to begin her new life. The town of Polstead was changed forever. When Maria's body was unearthed, the shock rippled beyond the borders of sleepy Polstead. News spread like wildfire through Suffolk and then across all of England. But one question loomed. Where was William Corder? Authorities moved quickly. Corder had left Polstead soon after Maria's disappearance, taking up residence in Ealing, just outside of London. There, he posed as a gentleman under a false name and had even placed Lonely Hearts ads in local newspapers looking for a wife. Yes, he was courting again. This time, he found a match in Mary Moore, a woman who responded to his ad. The two married swiftly. William presented himself as kind, educated, and wealthy, but what Mary didn't know was that she was sleeping next to a killer. But William made a fatal mistake. He left behind too many lies, and too many people who remembered Maria. The Martens' discovery brought Scotland Yard into the case. Descriptions were distributed, an arrest warrant was issued, and soon, detectives arrived in Ealing. They arrested William on the spot. Inside the home, they found something even more disturbing, one of Maria's scarves and a pair of her shoes hidden beneath a floorboard. The courtroom in Bury St Edmunds, Suffolk, was packed beyond capacity. The year was 1828, and the murder of Maria Marten, already dubbed the Red Barn murder, had captured the full attention of Victorian England. People traveled for miles to witness it. William Corder faced a single charge, willful murder of Maria Marten. The prosecution painted a haunting picture. Maria had been lured to the Red Barn under false pretenses. William promised her marriage, but instead concealed a pistol and murdered her in cold blood. Her body was then buried beneath the barn floor, hidden under layers of straw and soil. The defense attempted to shift blame, implying Maria may have died during a struggle or even by accident, but the evidence was damning. Testimonies sealed his fate. One witness claimed William had been agitated and sweating when last seen near the barn. Another told of the letters he wrote after Maria vanished, fabricated to convince her family she was well. But the most heartbreaking moment came when Maria's stepmother, Anne Marten, testified. She spoke of her dreams, the visions of the Red Barn, the nightmares that led her to dig. Whether seen as superstition or divine intervention, her testimony moved the jury and the nation. After only 35 minutes of deliberation, the jury returned guilty. William Corder was sentenced to death by hanging. August 11th, 1828. A sea of nearly 7,000 spectators flooded the small town of Bury St Edmunds. They came from villages, cities, farms, some traveling days, just to witness the hanging of William Corder. The gallows were erected outside the prison walls, a dark scaffold, a single rope, one man's end. William Corder stepped forward dressed immaculately, black coat, waistcoat, and a calm expression that startled many. He carried a prayer book. Some say he trembled. Others claim he looked skyward and whispered, "Lord, have mercy." And at 8 a.m. sharp, the lever dropped. Corder's body twitched, then stilled. He was dead. But the story didn't end there. His corpse was not returned to the family. Instead, the body of William Corder was dissected and used for medical study, a common sentence for murderers at the time. His skin was flayed, tanned, and turned into a book cover for a transcript of his trial, still housed in Moyses Hall Museum to this day. His skull, removed and studied for signs of madness. His death mask, cast in wax and displayed for years. In a time when science and punishment walked hand in hand, William's death was not just an end, it was a spectacle, a lesson, a curiosity. The crowd that once cheered for justice now whispered of curses, retribution, and ghostly sightings. Thus ended the life of William Corder. But the Red Barn, its legend had only just begun. The Red Barn, once just a weathered farm structure in Polstead, Suffolk, became forever known as a place of murder, betrayal, and the supernatural. Long after the execution of William Corder, locals reported strange occurrences in the area. Children whispered of a woman's ghost, pale and thin, floating silently across the nearby fields. Farmers claimed to hear soft weeping from the barn at night when no one was there. And some said that blood stains reappeared on the floor each spring, no matter how often they were scrubbed. The once ordinary Red Barn was now cursed by memory, or something else. Home. By the 1840s, the Red Barn had become a tourist attraction. Curious Victorians made pilgrimages to the site, eager to walk where the murder occurred. Some stole wooden beams as morbid souvenirs. Others took soil from the grave as a good luck charm. Eventually, the barn was torn down, brick by brick, either to stop the hauntings or because it had simply rotted away. No one's really sure, but the legend outlived the structure. Even in death, Maria Marten was not at peace, but neither was William Corder, because for decades, letters would surface claiming sightings of a man matching his appearance wandering Suffolk's roads, always alone, always silent. Was it grief that lingered, or something far more persistent? The Red Barn murder isn't just a story of crime. It's a window into the past, a reminder of how justice, media, and grief intersect. Maria Marten became both victim and myth. Today, her grave stands in Polstead churchyard. Simple, unadorned, a warning from history, and a quiet demand to be remembered. She trusted love and paid with her life. But in telling her story, truthfully, respectfully, we give Maria something William Corder stole, a voice.
Hi guys, this is Editor C telling you a this. And with that, we've come to the conclusion of the chilling tale of the Red Barn murder. A story that echoes through history, not just for its tragedy, but for the way it unfolded. A secret grave, a mother's haunting dreams, and a community forever marked by betrayal and loss. What do you think about this case? Was justice truly served? If you found this story compelling, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss another real-life mystery. Until next time, stay safe and always question the shadows.